Trial Tuesday once again. Love and marriage apparently is an institute that many disparage these days. Attorney David Aylor, a man who will say I do to your legal issues, joins us right now to discuss the different laws in South Carolina pertaining to separation and divorce. An unfortunate topic, Mr. Aylor, that we have to talk about, of course, but 1 in 2 marriages these days ends up in divorce. So what do we need to know if somebody's having some trouble?
Well, I think first of all, probably the most important thing you need to know is what state you're in. And when I mean what state you're in, I mean what state is your marriage in? Where's the jurisdiction of the marriage? You have a lot of people that move in and out of states and they feel like that, they need to file there. But that's the first thing you really need to determine if, in fact, South Carolina is the proper jurisdiction. And then from there, you can really start the process. It's pretty easy with consultations and things like that with many of the great attorneys around town that would be able to sort of direct you somewhere else. But you'd be surprised how many people, particularly military-related families that maybe are trying to get a divorce or getting a separation, and they're just not even in the right place to begin with.
Well, let me ask you, if you move to a state, do you then abide by those state laws, or is it wherever you filed for your marriage certificate?
It's not where you filed for your marriage certificate. It's going to be where the last place you and your spouse lived as a marital couple. So obviously that's where a lot of times you see the issue, because people will separate and then move apart, move into different states.
Sure.
But it's the last state that you lived as a marital couple, and that's where you're going to be recognized actually as a married couple that needs to then be separated and or divorced.
It seems to me that South Carolina has a pretty strict set of circumstances that allow for divorce and separation. Can we go through that? And I believe it's about a year that you have to be separated, something like that?
Right. What most people consider a no-fault divorce. Essentially what that is a 1-year separation. And that means that the husband and wife cannot live together under the same household for a year. And of course, when I say under the same household, I mean it can't be separate bedrooms. Obviously, people sometimes try to come in and that'll be what they're using as their separation time, but it's got to be in separate households. They can't consummate the relationship, get back together, or the time period starts all over again.
A lot of marriages, of course, ending in divorce these days because of allegations of adultery. Let's talk about if you're going to hire a private detective to go down that road and perhaps get some evidence. What do you need to know legally to make sure that that evidence, if you do collect it, would hold up in a court of law?
Well, what I would suggest is to go through your attorney. He or she will be able to set you up with, find you a couple of different options. There's some great private detectives here in town. A lot of them are former law enforcement themselves. What I wouldn't suggest is trying to become that detective yourself,
right,
or having your cousin or your brother or some neighbor try to help you out, because then you end up watching yourself get into legal trouble yourself by doing things like trespassing and invading people's privacy.
Indeed. So that always, of course, a slippery slope. In terms of evidence that's collected, is anything admissible if you hire that private detective through an attorney?
Well, absolutely, and there's going to be a discovery period within the divorce, but a lot of times, often what you'll use these investigators for is just to determine where a person is, what they're doing, and of course, most importantly in the adultery situation, who they're doing it with.
Of course. How about mediation? Let's say we get, down the road enough that both parties are willing to separate. Where does the division of property come in? How exactly can you do that in the best way possible?
Well, the court systems are going to very much encourage and some enforce actually a mediation attempt prior to actually going to a trial. And the mediation is a great resolution. We've got a lot of great trained mediators here in the Low Country because, one, you can get things settled, but you can actually do it quicker and cheaper by going through that mediator as opposed to going through, a nasty actual trial or hearing. Of
course, and I'm sure a lot of bad feelings get in the way and really muddle down this process, and that's what really makes it difficult.
Absolutely, because it's unfortunate, but you're talking about a situation where two people are going to be highly emotional. Then if you add in children, it just makes it that much more, just sensitive as a whole, from the start to the finish, just getting through it.
So make sure you use your head, and hopefully you can get through that process if you are going through it and come out brighter on the other side. Love the one you're with. That's what it's all about. David Aylor, thanks so much for your time, sir. Do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Much more Low Country Live coming up right after the break. Stay with us.